My mother-in-law firmly believes in short videos. In my previous life, when my sister-in-law was pregnant, my mother-in-law believed the rumor in short videos that keeping cats damages one's blessings. She threw my cat from the 16th floor to accumulate blessings for her grandson. My mother-in-law gave my sister-in-law incense-ashen sparrows to eat according to the video. After the child was born, he had low intelligence and was constantly sick. My mother-in-law blamed me. It's all because of your cat that stole my grandson's blessings. On New Year's Eve, the whole family replaced my drink with pesticide and killed me. When I opened my eyes again, I registered a short video account that only my mother-in-law could see and posted videos every day. When there is a pregnant woman at home, you must not harm the cockroaches and bed bugs at home. Otherwise it will damage your blessings. When my nephew is addicted to video games, I post, "What should I do if my child is addicted to the internet?" Just log into his account and delete all his skins and equipment with one click. When my mother-in-law is worried about my nephew's study, I post as long as parents add to eggs when making instant noodles, the child can get a full score. When I forwarded a short video into the Leo family courtyard group chat. The title is 3 things that must not be done when there is a pregnant woman at home. Otherwise it will damage the family's blessings. Forward it to your family members with hands clasped. Just like in the previous life. My sister-in-law posted her pregnancy test report in the group, followed by a series of blessings. I'm my mother-in-law. Mom, my sister-in-law is pregnant. The expert in this video makes a lot of sense. From now on, our whole family has to accumulate blessings for our nephew. My mother-in-law has always firmly believed in the content in short videos. In the previous life, my mother-in-law listened to the rumor in short videos that keeping cats damages blessings. She threw my ragdoll cat that I had raised for 6 years from the 16th floor. Although my sister-in-law and I did not live under the same roof, when I got home, I held my cat's bloody body and cried non-stop. My husband not only didn't comfort me but also blamed me. I've said it a long time ago not to keep this kind of thing. Mom is right. Save the hundreds of yuan you spend on him every month to buy meat. I haven't seen you be filial to your parents with so much money. The short video said that there are blessings in the incense sash of temples. My mother-in-law went to a nearby small temple and filled a car with furnace ash and ordered the whole family to drink incense ash water. The short video said that swallows and sparrows are the food of dragons. My mother-in-law caught sparrows and swallows in the community and gave them to my sister-in-law to eat, hoping to give birth to a dragon baby. Later, when my little nephew was born, his whole body was infected by bacteria. Not only was he of low intelligence but also was constantly sick. My mother-in-law broke into my house with a kitchen knife. It's all your fault. It's the cat you raised back then that sucked away the blessings of my Yao Xiu. My sister-in-law's family quarreled and asked me to compensate for their smart son. Even when my husband's career was not going well, and he failed to get promoted, it was also blamed on me. Until New Year's Eve, the whole family replaced my drink with pesticide. In the last second before my hearing disappeared before I died, I heard my mother-in-law say, the expert in the video said that as long as she is dismembered, and placed in the 4 directions of east, west, north, and south of the ancestral grave, the karmic obstacles can be eliminated. Let's do it quickly. When I opened my eyes again, the ragdoll cat was using its fluffy head to nudge the palm of my hand. I realized that I was reborn. After sending the cat to my best friend's house overnight, I opened my phone and registered a short video app. I edited a video. When there is a pregnant woman at home, there are 3 things not to do. First, don't kill the living beings at home because they are kind. All living beings come to repay kindness. Second, don't visit relatives casually because they are evil. Relatives come to collect debts. Third, don't utter resentful words. Misfortune comes out of the mouth and will damage blessings. After forwarding the video to the family group, the elders all gave thumbs up. 2. After a while, my mother-in-law replied in the group, which master did you forward this from? Does he have more than 10,000 fans? Why is it different from what the master I follow said? My mother-in-law has always been the target customer of elderly healthcare products. Those scammers on the internet can make her firmly believe by just making some mysterious remarks to solidify their fans. I was already prepared for this. I immediately took a screenshot of the homepage and sent it over. The photo generated by AI at a glance looks like an otherworldly expert. The certification logo was edited by me. It's enough to fool the elderly. The string of lofty titles on the profile is dazzling. The most crucial thing is that there are 100 fans. This is the real master. He doesn't do live broadcasts, and doesn't let people give gifts. He sows the seeds of helping others for free in the world. The scammers that my mother-in-law follows often ask for rewards under the pretext of live QA, which makes other people in the family very dissatisfied. Hearing that it doesn't cost money, they all came out to echo. My mother-in-law didn't speak in the group. After a while, the video account showed a new follower. Looking at the avatar, it was my mother-in-law. Master, my daughter-in-law is pregnant. How can I accumulate blessings so that she can give birth to a son with a good 8 characters? Please solve it. Looking at the private message sent by my mother-in-law, I suppressed the hatred in my heart and replied word by word, as I said clearly in my video. Don't kill the living beings at home. From large poultry to small cockroaches, mosquitoes, bed bugs, and flies in the bedroom. None of them can be killed. Otherwise, it will damage your grandson's blessings. In the next second, I saw my mother-in-law issue an order in the family group. Don't hit cockroaches or swat mosquitoes at home. Whoever damages my grandson's blessings will be kicked out of the house. Then she my husband and asked him to keep an eye on me too. After all, I don't live with everyone. She also said that she will come to our house regularly to check if there are cockroaches, flies, and mosquitoes. I quickly switched to the video account and sent another message to my mother-in-law. I forgot to tell you. During your daughter-in-law's pregnancy, the whole family should not visit others. Relatives will steal your grandson's blessings. My mother-in-law, can't I go to my second daughter-in-law's house either? No. Unless you want your grandson's blessings to be sucked away by your second daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law, then forget it. How can I let that little bitch enjoy happiness? I sneered in my heart. As expected, my mother-in-law is extremely selfish. I typed, don't utter resentful words. Misfortune comes out of the mouth. This is the most damaging to blessings. The person on the other side was obviously panicked. Master, what should I do? How can I make up for the lost blessings? Please solve it with hands clasped. Losing money can avoid disasters. Transfer 1,000 or 2,000 yuan to her. Don't transfer too much. That's enough to offset it. My mother-in-law thanked me repeatedly. Before long, the prompt sound of Alipay received 2,000 yuan rang on my phone. My mother-in-law sent me a message. Yvonne, the second one has been working overtime these 2 days and has lost weight. You take this money and buy some meat and stew it for him. She also said, men earn money to support the family. You should serve him well. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. I only hated that I didn't see how vicious and selfish this family was before. But my useless husband is always hanging out outside and eats much better than me. I'm afraid this money can only go into my stomach. I replied with the okay. Mom and accepted the red envelope. 3 As the dog days of summer arrived, the air was filled with a hot and humid atmosphere. I turned on the surveillance camera at my mother-in-law's house. Flies were flying everywhere in the room. From time to time, cockroaches crawled across the camera. My sister-in-law sat in front of the sofa and said painfully, Mom, please turn on the air conditioner. It's almost impossible to breathe in the room. Then came my mother-in-law's shrill voice. The experts on the internet all say that too much air conditioning can kill people. Besides, these flies and mosquitoes in our house all like warmth. If you turn on the air conditioner, you are killing them. Do you still want to accumulate blessings for my grandson? Just as she was speaking, my mother-in-law came out from a corner of the picture holding a bowl of leftovers. In an instant, All the flies and insects around gathered around the bowl from all directions. Fly fairies and mosquito fairies. Eat quickly. Give my grandson great blessings later. My mother-in-law actually prepared food for the insects at home, under the high-definition pixels of the surveillance camera. I could even see the red and purple marks on my mother-in-law's body bitten by mosquitoes and poisonous insects. I have a bit of trypophobia. After turning off the picture, I got goosebumps all over my body. At 12 o'clock at night, my husband came back unexpectedly. Not only was he reeking of alcohol, but his wrinkled white shirt was covered with lipstick marks. At a glance, he had been hanging out with his friends. I couldn't help but think of the drink mixed with pesticide that he handed me in my previous life. In fact, the reason why he and my mother-in-law harmed me was just because his mistress outside was pregnant and was eager for me to vacate my position. My husband sat on the sofa with his legs spread, gave me a disgusted look, and ordered, "Go and boil bath water for me. This dog man shows his true colors when he drinks." I thought for a moment, grabbed a big cockroach from the shoebox and threw it into the slipper in the bathroom. Then I supported him to take a bath. In the next second, there was a dull thud from the bathroom, followed by my husband's shrill scream. My husband slipped and fell in the bathroom while stepping on a cockroach. He lay on the floor groaning in pain. His feet and legs were full of the pus and eggs of cockroaches. In the hospital, when my mother-in-law heard the news, she anxiously called. As soon as she came up, she scolded me. "How can you be such a wife? My son drank so much alcohol and you actually let him go to the bathroom alone to take a bath. You made my son suffer such a serious injury. Did you marry back just to be a decoration?" Looking at the film in my hand, I was extremely happy. Fractured pelvis, displaced lumbar spine, and fractures of different degrees in both calves. The doctor said that my husband might not be able to stand up for the rest of his life. I sent the picture of the tragic corpse of the cockroach in the bathroom to my mother-in-law and said, "Mom, my husband slipped and fell after stepping on this female cockroach. I heard that there are hundreds of eggs in the body of a cockroach. That means my husband killed hundreds of living beings. Don't damage my nephew's blessings." As soon as my mother-in-law mentioned that her grandson's blessings were damaged, she was immediately on high alert. In a few seconds, my mother-in-law's urgent private message came on the video account. Master, what should I do? My second son stepped on a pregnant female cockroach. I heard that there are hundreds of eggs in the body of a female cockroach. How much blessings will this damage my grandson? Please solve it with hands clasped one." I paused for a moment before replying to her. What a sin. But as long as your second son suffers retribution, it won't affect your grandson. You should also have less contact with your second son in the future. When the family relationship is severed, it can deceive the will of heaven. The mother-in-law on the other side breathed a sigh of relief. I returned to the ward and was hit by a pillow by my husband. My husband was lying on the bed with an IV drip. With his other hand, he pounded the bed hard and scolded. "Where did you go? I've been holding my urine. Hurry up and get the urinal and help me urinate." For I stood at the door without moving and said lightly, "Hold on. The caregiver will come soon." My husband was furious. "Are you crazy? Yvonne? You dare to hire a caregiver for me? Do you think my money comes from the wind?" I shrugged. "It's the money your mom gave. She said she wants to take care of your pregnant sister-in-law for your elder brother. She won't come to see you recently. She also transferred 50 yuan to me." My husband always complains that his mother is partial to his elder brother's family. At this moment, he finally exploded. "I don't believe it. I want to call Mom. I don't believe she won't come to see me." He picked up his phone and dialed the number twice but was hung up. The third time, the other side simply turned off the phone directly. I no longer paid attention to my husband, who was acting crazy, and turned and left the ward filled with the smell of urine. On the day my sister-in-law gave birth, my mother-in-law sent a message to the video account again. "Master, this is my grandson's birth date. Our whole family has been accumulating blessings for him. This child will definitely achieve great things in the future. Right? I replied, your grandson has the fate of the champion reincarnated as Wen Kuxing. As long as you continue to accumulate blessings, he will surely be rich and noble. In my previous life, although my nephew was weak and sickly, his personality was extremely bad. Under the influence of my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law's family, my nephew deeply believed from the bottom of his heart that I had damaged his blessings. He often used this as an excuse to spit in my cup and throw bugs. Before I was finally poisoned by pesticide, I clearly heard him excitedly say that my tablet and mobile phone would belong to him from now on. This time, I want to see how this little brat can act recklessly again. My nephew's 100-day banquet was extremely grand. My mother-in-law showed off in public to relatives that her grandson was the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing and would be admitted to Tingshui University or Peking University in the future. In the next second, at my nephew's 1-year-old catching ceremony, among a lot of gold abacus and silver ingots, he ran towards a book. My mother-in-law was overjoyed. My grandson is indeed the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. What they didn't know was that before the catching ceremony, I stuffed a candy wrapper into the book in front of my nephew. After this, my mother-in-law firmly believed in my nephew's fate as the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. Even my nephew's name was changed to Quincy. When my nephew was of school age, my mother-in-law found me. Second daughter-in-law. Talk to your school leaders and let Quincy enter the elite class. I am just a small math teacher in the city experimental primary school. I can't pull strings at all. I said with difficulty, Mom, the elite class requires exams. What I say doesn't work. My mother-in-law gave me a blank look. I knew you were useless. Forget it. My grandson is the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. Is he still afraid of exams? On the day of the exam, the whole family sent my nephew to the examination room together, and I watched the surveillance of the examination room in the monitoring room. I saw that all the other children were answering questions seriously, but my nephew was scribbling on the test paper because he couldn't understand the questions. My mother-in-law didn't let my nephew go to any preschool on the grounds that my nephew was a genius. So before my nephew was 6 years old, his mind was completely empty. After the exam, my nephew came out of the school gate with his school bag on his back. The family surrounded him like flies. Quincy, how did you do in the exam? Did you answer all the questions? My mother-in-law asked. My nephew thought about his full test paper and said, I answered all of them. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law both smiled so much that their eyes curved, as expected of my little Wen Kuxing. After saying that, they invited me to have a meal at home. Thinking of the surveillance camera at my mother-in-law's house that was already covered with cockroaches and insects, I waved my hand repeatedly and declined politely. After that, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law called me every 2 or 3 days to ask if the results were out, whether my nephew got the first place, and whether the first place could waive tuition fees and so on. However, what my mother-in-law didn't know was that the elite class had started for a month. 5 when I was standing on the podium lecturing to the students in the elite class. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law's family rushed in. The security guards at the door couldn't stop them. Second daughter-in-law. Did you do something? My grandson is the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. How could he not be admitted to this crappy class? My mother-in-law said hysterically. My nephew stood behind my mother-in-law with his school bag on his back, also pouting and glaring at me. I put down the textbook and said calmly, now is class time. This is a classroom. If you have objections to the admission results, please go to the academic affairs office. Unexpectedly, my mother-in-law didn't care about the gazes of a large group of primary school students in the classroom. She resolutely sat on the podium by patting her butt. I don't care. Anyway, if my grandson is not allowed to enroll today, I will sit here and not leave. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law's family made a big commotion at school. But how could the elite class be entered by making a scene? Seeing that my mother-in-law took out a fruit knife and put it against her own neck, the school reluctantly agreed to let my nephew enter the ordinary class. My mother-in-law still wanted to make a fuss, but my sister-in-law advised her to stop while she was ahead. Mom, Our Quincy has the fate of a champion. He can become a useful person no matter where he studies. Only then did my mother-in-law reluctantly agree. The whole family sent my nephew into the classroom together and specifically told me not to let my nephew be wronged at school. I naturally have to pay attention to my nephew. For example, my nephew poked a classmate's school uniform with a pencil during class. Another example is that my nephew was caught peeking at his deskmate's test paper during an exam. I solved all the mistakes my nephew made at school. But my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law's family always thought that my nephew was an excellent child at school. Second aunt. If you help me with my homework, I will give you all my pocket money. In the office, my nephew took out 200 yuan from his pants pocket. I often saw in the surveillance that my nephew stole my mother-in-law's pension hidden under the pillow. Every time he took 400 or 500 yuan. This time should be no exception. Facing the money. How could I refuse? I just said, second aunt can help you with your homework. But you mustn't tell your mom and your grandma. Otherwise, those things you did at school. My nephew also cared very much about his aura of being the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. He nodded repeatedly. 6 under my cover. My nephew played for 6 years. Junior high school entrance examination belongs to the stage of compulsory education. My nephew was assigned to the junior high school department of a key middle school because of the school district. But my mother-in-law thought it was because my nephew was admitted. She was overjoyed and said, "My grandson is indeed the champion with blessings in his fate." She rewarded my nephew with the freak phone and tablet computer that he had always wanted to buy. After junior high school started. Without my cover. My nephew showed his true colors in the first monthly exam. When my mother-in-law was called to be a parent, she was full of dissatisfaction. Looking at the big 0 on the test paper, she said disapprovingly, "My grandson is the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. He has been a genius at reading since he was a child. It must be that the level of your test paper is too poor." The head teacher was very embarrassed. Grandma of Quincy. No. One middle school is a key middle school. The teachers are all graduates from Tingshui University and Peking University. Can't you face up to the actual problem that Quincy is very poor in basic knowledge? My mother-in-law couldn't bear to hear rather say that her proud grandson was bad. Immediately she jumped up. "My grandson is very smart. He just doesn't like to study. As soon as he starts to study, he can choose any university he wants." Back home, I forwarded the newly made short video into the family group. In fact, your child is very smart. It's just that his brain hasn't been fully developed yet. Teach you 3 tricks to develop your child's right brain. Parents, quickly collect it. First, train your child to eat and write with his left hand. Second, train your child to see with his left eye. Third, train your child to listen with his left ear. The elders all gave thumbs up and praised it as too scientific. That night, when I turned on the surveillance camera at my mother-in-law's house, I found that my nephew, who was doing homework in front of the coffee table, was writing with his left hand. He wore an eye patch on his head and only exposed his left eye. Even his ear was plugged with an earplug and only his left ear was used to listen. My nephew complained with a sad face. "Grandma, I'm so uncomfortable. I can't write with my left hand at all." But my mother-in-law was extremely serious. "This is to develop your intelligence. You must use your left hand to do everything in the future. Only in this way can you be admitted to Tingshui University or Peking University." Because my nephew's eyes and ears on one side were covered, he became stumbling when walking. From time to time, he would fall or be hit by a bicycle coming from the right side. In terms of study, it was even worse. The worse my nephew did in the exam, the more my mother-in-law intensified her efforts to let him use his left hand to develop his brain. After my nephew was directly promoted to the high school department of his school, he finally developed adolescent rebellious psychology. Copying answers for homework and cheating in exams made my mother-in-law and sister-in-law think that he had finally become enlightened. For this reason, my mother-in-law specifically commented under the video account to express her gratitude. "The master really has real skills. According to your video, I trained my grandson's right brain. My grandson's intelligence has really been fully developed. Thanks with hands clasped. I replied with 3 roses. In my nephew's sophomore year of high school, he became addicted to video games. In addition to skipping classes and going to internet cafes every day, he also spent a lot of money on games. After my nephew stole all the pension under my mother-in-law's pillow, he was finally discovered by my mother-in-law. For this reason, I edited another video, 3 steps to let children get rid of internet addiction. Parents whose children love playing games at home should quickly like and collect it. The first step is to log into the child's game account. The second step is to delete all the child's skins and equipment. The third step is to cancel the child's game account. Within 3 minutes after posting the video, I received likes and collections from my mother-in-law. Then I immediately released a tutorial on how to log into an account and delete skins and equipment. In the surveillance video, my mother-in-law was operating step by step with a tablet. When my nephew came back from school and just logged into the game, there was a sharp explosion. Where's the skin that I spent 1,000 yuan to buy? Where is my equipment? Why did my rank change from Supreme King to Bronze? At this time, my mother-in-law put a bowl of rice soup in front of my nephew and said righteously, "I deleted all your messy things. Now you can finally settle down and study hard for college entrance examination. Right? What did you say?" My nephew stood up from the sofa abruptly. "You canceled my account?" My mother-in-law didn't see the raging anger in my nephew's eyes and was still nagging on her own. "You will study hard in the future." In the next second, there was a clang. My nephew kicked over the coffee table full of food in front of him. "Study my ass. If you touch my stuff again, none of you will live." 7. My nephew smashed all the big and small things at home. His irritable and violent appearance was terrifying. My mother-in-law has always treated my nephew like a little emperor. In order to make my nephew calm down, she took out all her pension to let my nephew recharge games. Only then did she coax the little brat. In a blink of an eye, my nephew was about to take the college entrance examination soon. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law's family were still dreaming of their grandson being a champion. I opened the video account and posted a new video. Parents whose children are about to take the college entrance examination, pay attention. Let your children eat these things every day. It will be hard not to be admitted to Tingshui University, or Peking University. A pack of instant noodles with 2 eggs, which means a full score. Make it for your children quickly. After a while, my mother-in-law commented under the video, "I will make it for my grandson today." Since this video was posted, my mother-in-law made instant noodles and eggs for my nephew for all 3 meals without exception. My sister-in-law wanted to change the taste for her son, but was strictly stopped by my mother-in-law. The experts said that this is a full score noodle with good meaning. If you eat it every day, the child can be admitted to Tingshui University, or Peking University. Do you want my grandson to fail the exam? My nephew is at an age when he is craving junk food. He is too happy to eat instant noodles every day. Naturally, he won't tell my mother-in-law that the full score of the college entrance examination is not 100. He ate this noodle until the college entrance examination. Due to long-term intake of high oil and high salt foods, my nephew's body became as fat as a barrel. As soon as my nephew came out after taking the last subject, the family began to celebrate by opening champagne in advance. Quincy, when Tingshui University and Peking University come to our house to compete to let you go, which one will you choose? Tingshui University or Peking University? My mother-in-law asked at the dinner table. My sister-in-law was excited and said, "At that time, we will go to whichever school offers Quincy a higher scholarship." I, who was eating silently on the side, found it funny. In dreams, there is everything. On the day when the results were released, my nephew unsurprisingly scored more than 100 points. My mother-in-law insisted that my nephew's test paper was misjudged. She found the Education Bureau and asked for a review. My grandson is the reincarnation of Wen Kuxing. He is born with the fate of a champion. And I make instant noodles and eggs for him every day. How could he only score so little? Check it. It must be checked. 3 days later, the review result came out. which was even 10 points lower than the original score. My mother-in-law collapsed. My sister-in-law was even more unacceptable when she got this result. She couldn't help but blame my mother-in-law. "Mom, it's all because you made the so-called full score noodles for Quincy before the exam. Now it's good. Quincy really scored 100 points and can't go to any school." My mother-in-law was even more furious. "Don't think I don't know that you secretly stewed pig trotters for Quincy. Don't you know what kind of animal a pig is? Can Quincy not become stupid after eating it? You are the one who is the culprit who harmed my grandson." When the two were blaming each other and having a fierce fight, my nephew turned around and slammed the door and left. I turned off the surveillance camera and immediately received a text message from an unfamiliar number. "You are Leo's wife, right? I am his lover. Sophia. My son and I are waiting for you at the gate of your unit. What should come still comes. In my previous life, it was the same. The mistress my husband raised came to show off and asked me to vacate my position. The difference is that in this life, my husband has become a disabled person." Under the sycamore tree at the gate of the experimental primary school, a plainly dressed woman was holding an 11 or 12-year-old boy. The boy's eyebrows and eyes were at least 8 points similar to my husband, who was lying on the hospital bed and stinking. It made people want to vomit when they saw it. I slowly approached in high heels. In this life, without the torture of my husband and mother-in-law, I still maintain the figure and appearance of being in my early 20s. The woman couldn't help but bite her lower lip in inferiority when she saw me. I glanced at the boy she was holding and said teasingly, "Oh, you have a child outside." Sophia's face turned red and white because of my words. She took a deep breath and said, "I am Leo's lover. I came to ask you where you hid my child's father. You may not understand if you don't have a child. A child cannot live without a father." I chuckled. "Okay. I'll take you to see him." Outside the ward, Sophia was shocked when she saw her husband who was disabled and being slapped by a caregiver. "You? He is your husband. How can you treat him like this?" I raised my eyebrows. "Otherwise, I'll fire the caregiver and let you go in and serve him?" The woman was immediately speechless. I glanced at the child and said lightly, "I know you want child support. The child's father is disabled. Isn't there still his grandma?" When my mother-in-law was depressed because her grandson's dream of being a champion was shattered. She suddenly found that she had another grandson. My mother-in-law held the boy's face and cried loudly. "This is clearly the child of the second one. He is exactly like the second one carved out of the same mold." Just when the mother and son were staying at my mother-in-law's house, my nephew suddenly came back. When my nephew saw the boy living in his room and playing with his toys, he was furious. He roared and rushed forward to fight with the boy. Although it was said to be a fight, in fact, it was my nephew beating him unilaterally. "Quincy, how can you hit someone? He is your cousin." My mother-in-law loved both of them. She didn't know who to help. My nephew pressed the child and didn't let go. "He is just a bastard born to a mistress. See if I don't beat him to death for my second aunt." My mother-in-law hadn't seen my husband for more than 10 years in order to accumulate blessings for her grandson. Now seeing my husband's child, she naturally favored him a little. She pushed my nephew away and protected the child in her arms. For the first time, she got angry at my nephew. "You have the ability to hit your cousin. Why don't you have the ability to be admitted to a university?" My nephew was so hurt that he ran away from home again. I originally wanted to watch a good show on the surveillance camera for a few days. Unexpectedly, my nephew came to me. "Second aunt, I heard that it was you who brought that little wild child to Grandma's house. Why are you so useless? No wonder you can't hold the heart of second uncle." A little brat first scolded me to vent his anger and then threatened, "Hurry up and drive that mother and son away. Otherwise, I will tell Grandma about you killing cockroaches and swatting mosquitoes at home. I will say that it was you who destroyed my blessings and made me fail to be admitted to college." It has to be said that my nephew is a bit clever. I deliberately made an innocent and aggrieved look and said, "How dare I confront your grandma? However, your grandma believes most in those masters on the short video app. As long as the master says that the child will damage blessings, your grandma will definitely not show mercy. What I said is the truth. The old lady can abandon her own son for the blessings of her grandson, let alone an illegitimate child. That night, my video account showed that there was one more follower. Clicking on the avatar was clearly my nephew's non-mainstream selfie. My nephew sent a private message. This account. Will you sell it for 1,000? I rolled my eyes and replied, don't joke. Someone offered 10,000, and I didn't sell it. Can you offer more than him? There was silence on the other side for a moment as if thinking. After a while, a message came. I offer 50,000. Will you sell it? Knowing that my mother-in-law's pension was all in his hands, I didn't expect him to be able to take out so much at once. Deal. Although I sold the account to my nephew, there was still hacker software installed on my phone to facilitate me to monitor the chat content between my nephew and my mother-in-law at any time. On the first day my nephew got the account, he posted such a video. The child of a mistress is the biggest disaster star for a family. It will harm brothers and parents and consume all the blessings of the whole family. To make this family even more chaotic, I specially went to my mother-in-law's house in the afternoon. My mother-in-law looked restless, facing her husband's illegitimate child. She was not as affectionate as she was 2 days ago. Obviously, she was influenced by the video posted by my nephew. When my mother-in-law saw me, she couldn't help pouring out her bitterness. Second daughter-in-law. The expert said that the child of a mistress will consume all the blessings of our whole family. But after all, that is my own grandson, and your husband's own son. You wouldn't be willing to let him wander, right? Looking at my mother-in-law's eager eyes, I couldn't help feeling disgusted. Obviously, I am the victim who was betrayed by my husband. Why? Does she still want me to raise the illegitimate child for the mistress? I let go of my mother-in-law's hand and chuckled lightly. Mom. In that case, I divorce my husband and let the child's mother be the legal wife. Then he won't be the child of a mistress anymore, right? My mother-in-law was stunned when she heard this. Wouldn't this be wronging you? How could it be wronging me? If you are afraid that that woman will take away the joint property of our husband and wife, you can transfer all the assets to my name first. Then she can take care of my husband, and the child will also be legitimate. Isn't it the best of both worlds? I spoke clearly and logically. My mother-in-law was led astray by my logic, and also thought this method was extremely good. Second daughter-in-law. You are so smart. Now the money for the caregiver for the second one can be saved. On Monday morning, I went through divorce procedures with my husband. All the property was transferred to my name. My husband was equivalent to leaving the house with nothing. When Sophia heard that she could enter the family, thinking about Leo's family property, how could she disagree? Immediately, she got a marriage certificate with her husband who was sitting in a wheelchair and drooling. My mother-in-law asked her to go to the hospital to take care of her husband, and she also agreed reluctantly. And I beautifully counted all the property and planned where to go and have a good time after taking revenge. 10 After learning that I divorced to make room for the mistress, my nephew was furious and called to scold. You cowardly idiot. Letting the mistress enter the house officially. Are you sick? I smiled faintly. Not at all like the soft bun I used to be. Mother-in-law and you as the main account. I sent her a small account so that she can have some hope. Little nephew. Accumulate blessings for your cheap cousin with the whole family. Sure enough, after Sophia's child became legitimate, he received my mother-in-law's undisguised preference. The eldest grandson is considered useless and can't bring the whole family to prosperity. So my mother-in-law began to place all her hopes on the younger grandson. In order to accumulate blessings for the younger grandson, my mother-in-law, like in her previous life, forced the whole family to drink incense ash water and feed the younger grandson swallows, sparrows and other things that are said to be the food of dragons. This really angered my nephew who had been a little emperor at home for more than 10 years. Thinking of my mother-in-law's blind belief in short videos, he had a flash of inspiration and edited a video. If you want to accumulate blessings for your child, Start with letting the child fast. First, you can't eat grains because grains are the most filthy. Second, you can't eat meat because there is animal resentment on meat. Finally, it is recommended to drink rainwater so that you can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After seeing this video, I couldn't help laughing. My nephew is really ruthless. My mother-in-law has always firmly believed in the things in short videos. Within 2 days, all the big fish and meat that compensated the younger grandson were replaced with green vegetables and cucumbers. The younger grandson looked aggrieved. "Grandma, are we only eating vegetable leaves tonight? Is there no meat?" In the past, no matter how poor he was, he had steamed buns and rice soup. But now the plate in front of him was full of things that rabbits eat. My mother-in-law said, "This is all to accumulate blessings for you. Be obedient." After eating vegetable leaves, you have to go outside and get wet in the rain. If you don't get soaked all over, it doesn't count as receiving the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In less than a month, a younger grandson who was full of energy and even a little chubby visibly became listless. The sparrows and swallows with germs that he ate some time ago finally defeated his young body when his immunity was low. Sophia's son was sick. The last time I saw her was when she hurriedly asked me where Leo's bankbook was. I smiled and said, "Didn't mother-in-law tell you? Leo left the house with nothing. All the property belongs to me." Sophia couldn't believe it. She had endured humiliation and been a mistress for half her life. After waiting for so many years, she finally became legitimate. What was left for her was only a paralyzed Leo and a family of freaks. My mother-in-law also reacted. She called me and scolded me. "You are a jinx and a stinky bitch. You actually took away my second son's family property and ran away. You will not die a good death." I said slowly, "Mom, watch your words. Now your family is already in a mess. If you scold me a few more words, all your blessings will be deducted. You. My mother-in-law deeply remembered that the video once said that one should not utter resentful words, which would damage blessings. She forcibly stopped the words that were about to come out and directly hung up the phone. In order to treat Sophia's son, my mother-in-law tried all the folk remedies in the short video app. Not only did it not cure him, but it became even more serious. When my mother-in-law was almost at a loss, she suddenly remembered the female cockroach that was trampled to death by Leo. There were hundreds of eggs in the body of the female cockroach. Those were all lives. It must be because the second one trampled the female cockroach to death that damaged the blessings of our family. In recent years, she has supported all the flies and bedbugs at home. Only that one time. The more my mother-in-law thought about it, the more certain she became. She simply asked someone to pick up Leo, who was lying in the hospital. "Mom, did you finally come to save me?" Leo vaguely felt that he was saved. In the next second, he was thrown into an old house full of cockroaches. My mother-in-law said viciously, "Go and atone for your sins." 3 days later, Leo starved to death in the old house. As the culprit, my mother-in-law was also arrested for intentional homicide. Leo's family was completely in chaos. After my nephew owed a lot of gambling debts outside, he was found and beaten half to death. My sister-in-law's family sold the house but still couldn't pay off my nephew's debts. After being listed as a person subject to enforcement for dishonesty, they could only take my nephew and flee everywhere. After 2 lifetimes, those who killed me finally got their own retribution. In order to start a new life, I quit my stable job here, sold the house that I once shared with Leo, and took my kitten and boarded a flight to another city.